Cool. This is going to be War and Peace. The idea is that it's going to be your first project. This is a 1 week solo project. It will be due on Sunday night at 6 p.m. So that is going to be December the 6th at 6 p.m. No commits after 6 p.m. will be accepted. And they will be evaluated with an instructor the Monday morning, starting at between 9 and 12. You will spend some time one-on-one with the instructor, where you will demonstrate, you'll kind of run the application for the instructor, and then the instructor will go into the code and give you feedback on what you've done. Is anyone not familiar with the game War? Everyone played it when they were it. Our Angel is not familiar. There's a Wikipedia link in here. Essentially, it is. I played it a lot with my cousins when I was little, and I think they hated me for it because it is a terrible game. Essentially, you put down a card, and whichever card is higher, they get the card, unless you put down the same card where the card just matched, the number of the suit matches, and then you have to put down 3 more cards, and that last card, whichever one won that one, the winner gets all the card. You keep playing until someone has until essentially no one has any cards left and they're the loser. There's no strategy to the game, and it takes much longer than it should to play. Hence why I think my cousins hated me, because I kept wanting to play it. There is a link to the Wikipedia on it, and I think the kind of this goes through kind of how you play it. But we have a setup link here, which kind of talks about like you're going to fork a repository and clone the fork to your computer. We want you to commit frequently. The project requirements is pretty much laid out throughout iterations. The idea is that our projects usually consist of 4 iterations. A passing project in general will have completed iteration 3. So we'd like to get you at least 3 4s if you finish and want to go beyond. I would iterate very strongly that if you move on to iteration 4, you had better be sure that everything in 1 through 3 is as good as you can make it to be. I would hate for the situation to come across where I would have to mark a project as failing because you decided to go on further rather than to make sure that what you had was good, or double check what was good, or what you had was good previously. And so what these tests are, what this project will have are some interaction patterns. And they'll say like, hey, we want you to have these classes with these methods, and these methods should return things and interact. So we'll pretty much say like, hey, we want to see this card test that's going to do these things. We want to see this deck class. This deck class will have these methods, and these methods will do these things. And there'll be an example of what it would look like if you were to interact with it using pry within here. And there's going to be 4 iterations of this. Again, 1 through 3, the ones we really want you to make sure are completed. In addition to the functionality, we expect you to write tests for each class. Make sure your code is readable. We want you to commit frequently. I'll talk about it a little bit, and we want you to get used to at least start using pull requests. It is a good idea to get into the habit now of committing your code to GitHub frequently. And so I'm going to talk about the rubric for this project. You all can see my screen, right? It would be a lot of talking. All right. Because I was scrolling through, and if it was just me talking, it would make a lot less sense. So your application will be graded across 4 criteria. Functionality. Exceptional is what we consider a 4. It meets expectations is passing would be a 3. Below expectations would be scored a 2. Well below expectations would be a 1. So for functionality to pass or meet expectations, you have to complete iteration 3. Ruby mechanics, we want you to see using appropriate things like as described here, Ruby conventions, testing. The one rubric which is not scored, which is simply a pass-fail, is going to be that we want to see this code on a GitHub repository, and we want to see at least 20 commits and 1 pull request on your project. So that's not going to be scored, but it's just a straight-up requirement. There is a lot of the project to go over. The actual iterations, there's a lot to go over that. So we're not going to go over that. That's something that you just kind of take a look at your own and kind of read and just really digest. before you kind of start moving on. But I want to open it up to questions. Kyle?
Throughout the week, will we be able to check in with instructors to look at the progress that we've been making on the project?
We have we have project check-ins on Thursday afternoon. They'll be in a group setting. So there'll be like 6 or 7 of you in a group, and we'll talk about and look at code as a group about where you are. I would say if you can fit, in general, if you're about near finishing iteration 2 around Friday, you're probably in good shape, because then you have all of the weekend to work on 3. So generally, that's probably a good benchmark. Cool. Alex?
You're talking about testing. Are we talking about writing tests and how to determine?
Yeah, we will be. Your first testing class is tomorrow, and there's another testing class on Wednesday.
All right.
Cool. Yeah, so we generally structure. How we generally run classes that we believe in just late teaching, where we let you tussle with the problem before we have a class on it, so you can kind of like have an idea of what the struggle is first. Like the order and timing of classes is all by design. Other questions?
Will there be any resources over the weekend to reach out to in terms of instructors or Madeline?
You can DM us, but I would not guarantee a speedy response over the weekend. And so usually, like, if you have questions or whatnot over the weekend, I'll suggest putting in the Code Help channel as your coordinates can help. And if we see it and there's not a good answer, we'll generally chime in. But like I said, like, don't expect like immediate like response like on a weekday. Kyle, do you have a new question, or is it the same question from before? Cool. Jake?
Yeah, so you said you want at least 20 commits.
Yeah.
So obviously there's only 4 iterations, or
Yeah.
3 or 4 iterations.
Mhm.
So you just want to see like random commits per iteration.
Not random. Like, so
I
the
shouldn't
idea.
I shouldn't say random, sorry. Like,
go ahead.
when like I've solved this problem, push that up. I've solved this problem, commit this. I've solved this problem, commit this.
That is one approach to it. Myself personally, I like to commit and push whenever I take a Pomodoro break, because like for me, like let's say the worst case scenario, like you're working at a coffee shop. Well, let's pretend we're in normal times, or working at a coffee shop, right? You take a break, get up, and to go to the bathroom. You come back, and someone swiped your computer.
Yeah.
Like, if you commit and push that, at least it's on GitHub, right?
Yeah.
In this time, like, let's say you get up to go to the bathroom and you accidentally spill coffee in your computer. So for me, I will generally structure my commits both around functionality and a little bit around time.
Okay. So yeah, my question was functionality, but your point is just do it like at
both.
time too.
I think it's a combination of both. As you get more used to this, you'll find a rhythm that works for you. Like, I think that often you'll think like, well, what if I'm working on a thing and it just takes, forever to do? I'm like, well, that means that you've not broken down the problem into a small enough chunk.
And obviously I'm still getting used to Git and all that.
Yeah.
Push and commit every time we're doing it, or commit and push every time we're doing it.
I think it's a good habit to get into.
Okay.
The independent challenges will ask you not to push until the very end, but you should be committing on a regular basis just to get like the muscle memory in.
Okay, I probably need to review the difference between the two.
Yep. Well, committing is just committing, and then push is when you do a git push. A
Right.
git push will push all the uncommitted stuff up to the internets.
Right, and commit is just saving that.
It's kind of a
locally.
checkpoint.
Yeah.
A commit's like kind of a checkpoint.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll talk about more, we'll go into more detail about Git and its intricacies Thursday.
Cool.
Cool. Anything else today about your project? If any questions come up later, I would strongly suggest you post them in your code up channel and we'll answer them there. Because like you just got this, like you haven't, there's no way you read the entire specification. So like 100%, I would suggest asking clarifying questions in the code up channel. Because I think like one of my pet peeves is just like sending the same message on Slack to like 5 different people when we could have just done it once in Slack. But that is not to say I'm not trying to discourage you from asking from DMing all of us instructors. If you just want to ask something of us private, like you're more than welcome to do that. I really want to reiterate that like we care about how you're doing academically as well as personally. But I just want to make sure like I want to foster this culture where it's okay to ask questions in public and it's okay to like do that fearlessly. I think one of like the worst things that a person does is not ask questions. I always tell students this, and like if you have a question in your head right now that you're a little afraid to ask, I can guarantee you with a class of 33, 4 other people have the same question and are feeling the exact same way. So like I would rather you ask too many questions and we can tone that back a little rather than the other way around. Jennifer? You're muted.
Thank you. I saw that on Thursday there's an hour set aside for Git and GitHub. Is that just kind of like navigating it so people like Jake and myself, like with the issues as far as understanding the details of that you're going
It
over?
is a class. It is a class on it.
Okay.
So it'll cover like the basics and some of the preferred workflow that you'll be using to work on Git at Turing and in the future.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. It is 3 p.m. Head on over to PD. The link is in your calendar. Goodbye.
Thanks, Mike.